Hi, I'm William Stewart, co-founder of Teleios. Welcome back to our verse-by-verse study on the book of Mark. We're starting chapter 10 today. Christ is slowly making his way to Jerusalem for the final time and to undergo his terrible crucifixion, so unjust and painful, and but to his glorious resurrection. Let's go to the text. He discusses divorce. So he came to the coast of Judea. The coast here in the original Greek is Orion, as I remember, a region, and on the farther side of the Jordan. So Judea is to the west of the Jordan. By saying he's on the farther side, I think he's on the east side of that river. Remember, the Jordan is the river that runs between the Sea of Galilee to the north to the Dead Sea in the south, creating a eastern border for modern Israel, at least partially. And the people came to him again, and he taught them, as was his habit. And the Pharisees came to him, of course, tempting him, otherwise wanting to trip him up. Of course, they wanted very much for him to say something for which they could charge him with sedition, take it to the Roman authorities, and have him executed. And of course, Christ was too wise for this. So he asked him in return in verse 3, what did Moses command? He basically says that you could put away your wife if you want. And this is from Deuteronomy, I think chapter 23, though don't quote me on that. And Christ answered them in verse 5 and said, for the hardness of your heart, he wrote this precept. Okay, so God allowed it. And the men of Israel seem to be so bent on this ability to divorce, and perhaps other things were more important. We don't know why he allowed it, but it's there, and he basically confirmed it. But then he said, from the beginning of creation, God made male and female, and he quotes the verse in Genesis 2:24, for this cause a man shall leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife, and they who were two shall be one flesh, for they are no more two, but one flesh. And then he adds, verse 9, therefore what God has joined together, let no man put asunder, as we often hear at marriage ceremonies, or separate. So he's basically then telling them a higher moral code, which, again, he's always wanted the Jews to have. So he gave them the law as a way to initially organize them, a slave rabble coming out of Egypt, do this, do that, so they would have order, a government, learn about Messiah, learn how to worship. But as time went on, he expected, desired better things from them, not just sacrifice, but to have mercy and to walk with your God, Hosea 6:6, Micah 6:6-8, to love God, fear God, as we read in Deuteronomy 6, in a sense, to have a heart. And they didn't do this. And so he's telling them his desire about how marriage should be. Now, when he's alone, he tells the disciples more. And because they approached him on this matter, in verse 11, he said to them, whoever shall put away his wife, which he did allow, he didn't desire it, and marry another commits adultery against her. And this is confirmed in Matthew 5 at the Sermon on the Mount. And if a woman put away her husband and be married to another, she commits adultery. So that's how hard and fast Christ desires one woman to be married to one man, and not go from marriage to marriage, adding this sin, which he didn't describe, to the Pharisees. But again, he taught the disciples more. Now, of course, this is, as I've often stated, this is for the time of the Gospels. Christ has come. He's given them more information, like he's Messiah, and believe. He's updated the progressive revelation of Scripture. And he does this again here. But it will again be updated for Christians in the time of the church. And this is in 1 Corinthians 7, verses 10 and 11, I think 15 and 16. So that's too much detail to go into right now, but watch those videos if you're interested. It's a very complicated, controversial topic. Needless to say, well, I will say that marriage in the church is even more upgraded than what we read here because it reflects the relationship between Christ and the church. I think that marriage, its primary meaning and goal, is evangelical, reflecting that relationship of Christ and the church, that commitment, that love, that dedication, and is meant to draw people to Christ. That's an even higher standard that God desires for marriage for us, and how important it is as a bedrock of the society and so important to our Christian faith. Okay, that's it for now. What we've learned is that the Pharisees have come to Jesus trying to tempt him, trip him up, asking him about divorce. Christ confirms what was in the law, but adds to it a higher moral code that God does not like divorce. And then privately adds to the disciples later that to divorce and remarry is sin in the time of the Gospels, at least. Okay, thanks so much. I'll look forward to seeing you next time.